Coach, your quick thoughts on this being one of the last games of the season, regular season, between a top RPI team to really bolster your resume?
You know, it's really not about a resume. It's about just getting ready for practice here today and really preparing for a very good team on the road, that's in our conference. I think that, if you have the opportunity to fight for a conference regular season championship, you tend to look at that as being very important. And how ready you are for that next challenge is really the most meaningful and really the only thing that you can control.
After the game against USC, you said that was probably the best performance on both ends of the court for your team. Do you kind of still stand by that after looking back at the film?
Yeah, I think it's one of them. We played together and really were able to string together start to finish. I thought offensively against a team that forces a lot of turnovers and steals the ball at a high rate, for us to play with 11 turnovers was very, very good. And, our offensive rebounding numbers, I think, was among the highest of the season. We did a great job of getting second shots and protecting the ball. And, that's why we beat a very good team.
Do you see much difference in ASU from before to now?
Not a lot, no. I mean, they were a good team the first time, and I think they're equally good now.
How much can you apply to what you guys did against Washington State in running them off the line to Arizona State, who also takes a whole bunch of threes?
Well, there's a number of teams in our conference that play that style this year, more so than ever before. Oregon is prolific in terms of how they move the ball and utilize the three-point shot. Utah is very high, even nationally, in terms of utilizing the three-point shot, depending on it. Washington State, as you had mentioned, and then ASU. Those four really stand out. I mean, UCLA has maybe better balance, but their skill level is certainly as high as maybe any. So there's a number of teams in our conference that thrive in that area, and there are times when we haven't done a good job. But, that's one of many keys in our game on Thursday is to recognize, how lethal they are and how quickly they can score points by not just one or two players, but a number of them who utilize the three-point shot. I think the other thing about ASU is they also combine that with getting to the foul line. And Trey Holder in particular, he can live at the foul line. And those are two really problematic areas for us, defending the three-point shot and playing 40 minutes without fouling. We're after growth in both of those areas, and we'll be challenged on Thursday in both of those areas for sure.
How key is it that you guys are going to just play one game in about a week and a half in terms of recovery?
Yeah, no, I think that comes at a good time. We've had back-to-back long trips in the Pac-12 as well. It's difficult to win both games on the road in the Pac-12. I think that's been documented for a long time. But I think if you add that extra day, it puts maybe even a little bit more pressure on the road team. I know ASU, I think, had 3 of those in a row, which is tough. But I think for us to have that one game is great. Nothing really changes from now until Thursday. What it changes more is after the game until our next game against Oregon State. So we'll take advantage of that, and I think to have that come in mid-February is very timely.
What did you make of that tentative number 4 seed yesterday? Is that about what you thought at this point?
I can't control that. I mean, we're just trying to get ready for the next game.
Do you figure at this point, like you said, obviously you're focused on the game and improvement, but as far as the opportunity to improve your seed, it looks like you have a really good chance to win the league now. Would those kind of things come to play a little bit in the back of your mind at least? Or?
No, I mean, for us, it's so much about staying in the mode of what we can control. We have a big game on Thursday, and it's a road game. It's against ASU. And I think for us, we have our hands full with the preparation for that game. And, if you do a great job taking care of every day, those other things seem to work out.
Is there a disadvantage to your guys' size advantage? I know rebounding, it helps, but then you're mentioning how they get to the foul line a lot. Is that something that could happen where if you're so much bigger than the other team that there's kind of a chance to maybe call more fouls than you guys just based on size?
It works both ways. I'm sure on their end, their concern would be the identical concern, and that is, our ability to offensive rebound, our ability to get the ball close to the basket, not just with one player, but really two, and then, you know, our guards driving. You know, we too can get to the foul line, and it all depends on, you know, I think the size advantage or disadvantage at the end of the game. You know, were they able to spread us out, get a number of quality three-point shots, get out in transition where we didn't match up, drive the ball against our bigs, or were we able to do a really good job of defending, plus offensive rebounding, getting the ball close to the basket, and maybe accomplishing the same thing in a different way. So that it's clearly teams that are made up differently. However, and I said this in Game 1, Romello White, for our young players, a very valuable member of ASU. You know, when he scores and and shoots a high field goal percentage, and they can get him the ball around the basket, I think they're even a better team. So we have to be ready for him as well.
Would you say they seem similar? I mean, I think Justice or one of those guys are saying their confidence is at an all-time high now. They're the streak. I mean, they seem to be back maybe in that mode they were in before. I mean, I don't know if you noticed a difference, or maybe in the individuals, you know, these last few games compared to when they kind of were having some struggles there for a while.
You know, the last time we played them, you know, they were undefeated. I think if they would have beat us that night in McHale, they would have been the #1 ranked team in the nation. So this time, I'm sure they're very confident, and they should be. And but I thought the last time we played them, they were very confident as well. I think generally speaking, you know, because of their experience with Evans, Holder, and Justice, those guys are contagious in that they believe in themselves, and you could tell that Bobby Hurley's done a really good job of instilling that confidence in them, that belief in them. You know, they believe in themselves, and they should.
What do you see out of ACOT lately that might encourage you?
You know, he's just continually stayed with it, gotten better. You know, sometimes a younger player, they want you know, things to happen day one, their freshman year, the most minutes, the most points, et cetera. And, you know, Emmanuel's battled tendonitis really the entire year. And he's, you know, one of the youngest players on our team. But I think that when he comes in off the bench, he has a good sense about him. He defends. I think his purpose is good. He's not coming in trying to score as much as he is really to play his role. And that role is to take care of the ball. He's a good passer. He's bigger than a lot of our other perimeter players, so I think he gives us a different look on defense. And, you know, defense, it takes a little time to develop, and I think you see that with him. He's probably more sure of himself right now here in February than he would have been in November.
Has he completely recovered from the tendonitis, or is he still struggling with that a little bit? Or?
I think he struggles some. I think just his continued efforts in the weight room, you know, learning how to take care of himself and communicating effectively, all that's probably lessened it. So if he's dealing with it, it doesn't just derail him right now, and it's something that he'll get over as he continues to grow and get older, develop strength and flexibility. And we're obviously working hard with him on that.
Do you notice that on tape as well, like his movement, just in general?
Yeah.
Defensively specific, I mean, we see the potential in him, and it seems like you're trusting him more often and to help on defense. I mean, has that come around in practice more with him, or mentally, has he bought in more? Anything changed the last month or so with him?
He's just continued to work hard.
Last time you guys played ASU, you held them to 37.9% shooting from the field. Can you speak about what kind of clicked for you guys on the defensive end in that game, and what do you have to do to keep that going in Tempe on Thursday night?
Well, that's a little deceiving because you have to realize how many three-point attempts they're taking, right? So if they have a number of those threes go in, their field goal percentage won't necessarily reflect their points per possession. And same thing with turnovers. You know, if a team shoots 52% from the field, right, and they have a high turnover night, 17, 18 turnovers, you know, on paper sometimes it looks like they had a great night. Heck, they shot 52% against you, but 17 or 18 turnovers derailed them. So for us, you know, you have to be careful. Free throw attempts, three-point attempts are big parts of ASU's attack. And the consistent effort throughout, not just in the first half, but both halves, and being able to get great defense from our bench and continued effort, similar to what I think we were able to string together against USC is what we're going to need.
In your first 8 years up there, did you ever know there were more seats on the top deck?
I did. I think at the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, that it was open, and then at some point it was closed. But I know it's open now, and I think you have to really give the coaching staff at ASU and everything they've done in the last couple of years. You have to really give them credit. They seem to have a strong fan base following them this year. I know their home games are well attended, and that's not an easy thing to change.
Looking back, what's probably the most hostile ASU environment since your time at Arizona?
I don't know. When we play on the road, I think we get the crowd's best shot. It's hard to really focus on that. Like I said, I think the fact that they are having such a good attendance right now is really good for our conference. It gives our conference a boost. I know a lot of the questions sometimes is, hey, when UCLA and Arizona have strong teams and they're highly ranked, that's great for the Pac-12. And obviously that's true, but the depth of a conference speaks louder than just two programs. And when you have a number of programs that are thriving, like Oregon has recently, Washington had it going when Lorenzo was there for a long time, that's really what makes a conference so good. There's 12 of us, and it's nice when you can point to a number of teams and coaches and programs growing. So everything that ASU is doing right now is, I think, a positive. We know we're going to be in for a great crowd, and that's what makes winning on the road so difficult.
Walton said the other day he thinks 9 Pac-12 teams should be in the tournament. And I know some people say 2 or 3. What do you think at this point? And I know with that huge bunch of teams in the conference behind you guys, do you see it kind of just depending on how it plays out, or could you see 4, 5, 6 teams getting in maybe?
I'm not sure. I mean, my hope would be 4 or 5. 4. We got 4 in last year. A lot of people don't realize that. And again, that speaks to the depth or lack of a conference. We had 3 teams that were very high seeds and on the threshold of a Final Four. Oregon, punched through and got to a Final Four. And because of the success of the 4 teams that were in the tournament, you forget there were 8 that weren't. And this year, I think that we don't have maybe as strong of a depth per se, but my hope is that the ball bounces our way and we can at least get a third of our conference in. And obviously, once you get in the tournament like a year ago, you hope that everybody advances.
What's your thoughts? I was just curious about Brandon Williams. It seems like he's having a good senior year. You checked in on him. It seems like he's fully healthy and playing kind of maybe at the level you're expecting, I'm guessing.
I'm not sure I can speak on that because of NCAA rules.
Well, he signed the
I know.
papers, though. I thought you could.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can.
How has Dusan's personality changed since arriving here until now? He comes in with the bruise on his eye the other day. I mean, how has his personality changed over that time?
Yeah, he's a fun guy to be around right now. Not that he wasn't before, but everybody that's followed our program closely, saw him come here as a gangly 7-footer from Serbia who I don't know if any of us really, knew what he would be capable of or how it would all work. I mean, certainly we recruited him, so we believed in him. But just watching his continued work ethic and development over a period of time and his confidence right now in Pac-12 play, I would think that looking at our team and his numbers, his role and his consistency, that he might have a chance to be on the all Pac-12 team, which would be great. And also I would think that he would be one of a number of players mentioned for most improved when you consider, where he came from until where he is right now.
How much is he going to be one of your cases of guys that are different from when they step on campus to when they're a senior?
We'll point to him a lot for sure. Solomon Hill is the litmus test for guys that come here and stay with it and improve and go on to do great things. And hopefully somebody like Dusan, different because he's a big guy, that we will certainly use him as an example. But in college athletics and college sports, sometimes that 4-year player, the guy who leaves with his degree at the end, who's kind of built his game over a long period of time is lost. But he's a big reason that we've had the success that we've had.
Did the LA schools play defense against Trier any differently, given his lack of free throws in those 2 games?
No, we've seen really a steady dose of zone, and sometimes zone puts those guys in a position to not foul. We probably weren't as aggressive, but I like the way we attacked really both zones. Our problem against UCLA stemmed a lot on their high rate of scoring, and but the last 2 games, how we operated on offense was good enough.
You talked about the issues last year against the zone. This year, do you feel like you guys are where you hoped you would be against that kind of defense?
Yeah, I mean, we are the #1 ranked offensive team in the Pac-12. I think, before our this past weekend, UCLA and us were 1 and 2. They were 1. We're #1. That's all that matters.